ever talking like on a microphone in front of a whole bunch of people. So, I was born to a 15-year-old single mom. That is literally where it was just evilness from there. My dad left when I was 2. My mom left me with my grandma, so my grandma basically raised me. And I don't even really remember my mom in my childhood till I was like 8. Like that is like my first legit memory of her like being around. My grandma went to church. She did go to church. We did every Sunday, but I wasn't learning about Jesus. I was just there because my grandma was there. Like it wasn't, no, I was like literally getting the word or anything. I didn't know that they even called it the word. It was just my grandma held a Bible and we sang. That was it. That happened until I was 8, and then my mom did decide that she wanted to be a mom again, and I went and lived with her. From the time I was 8 until I was 14, she had 23 boyfriends. 2 of them I called dad, and my first like actual experience with anyone trying to talk to me about Jesus was the first man that I called dad. His dad gave me my first Bible. So that kind of was like the start of it. Like it interested me, but because my mother was so worldly, like I didn't get that support to be like, oh yeah, let's read this. So when I was 14, my mom had another child with another man, and they got married, and she decided she didn't want to be my mom anymore again. So I left home.
You got this, Lord. Give her words. Strengthen her, Lord. Give her strength. Her testimony is her power. She led over the enemy. Thank you, Jesus.
I stayed with a bunch of different friends anywhere I could stay. By 16, I was a prostitute. By 19, I was still a prostitute, shooting heroin. I didn't smoke weed, I didn't do cocaine, I didn't do none of that. Like I literally just went straight for heroin, and that lasted until 3.5 years ago. But when I was 20, I got pregnant with my oldest son. God, by the grace of God, I never got pregnant before I was 20. Like literally, it's God. It was God. There's no other explanation, because I probably should have 20 children right now. Literally, like by God only knows who. That's how bad it was. I've had pimps. I've been independent. I've worked in strip clubs. I never walked the street, so I always thought like I was a high-class prostitute because I didn't have to go out there and walk and get in people's cars. But I was leaving from the strip club to meet them at hotels, so it was just the same thing. Like I think that was just the justification that I used. So then I quit doing all of that at 19. So then I got pregnant with my oldest son at 20. And his dad was very emotionally abusive. He wasn't physical until after I had my oldest son. He still lived with his parents. His parents were very emotionally, verbally, physically abusive. So I had him when I was 21. I started drinking right after I had him. Like, alcohol was my best friend. Literally, I would wake up and want to drink. And my oldest son's dad's sister was alcoholic also, so that's where the supply would come from. I wouldn't have to pay for it or anything. She would already just have it. So we were drinking all the time together. Then me and him ended up breaking up, and I started drinking way more. I moved out and took my son with me. He went over to their house for the weekend. My son's dad's mother went down to domestic relations court and paid $90 to file for emergency custody of my son behind my back. I'm still fighting to get him back to this day. I didn't see him for 6 years. Nothing, no contact, no anything. And then, so after she had got custody of him, this is my youngest son, by the way. That's JoJo. He is literally my blessing from God. He is.
Amen.
So I had gone, after I had lost custody of my oldest son, I literally was living to die. I would wake up and ask why I woke up. My whole world had ended, and I was dead inside. So I went back to drinking, and I was doing heroin again. I don't even think it was heroin. It might have been fentanyl at that point. Like, I don't know. I didn't care. I didn't. As long as I was numb, that's all that mattered. I would get high to hope I died. Because that's when the pandemic of, like, everyone was ODing from heroin. Like, I lived through that. And I would always ask why. Like, why? Just why? And...
because you were born for such a time as now.
Yes.
That's right.
In 2017, I was still prostituting and using heroin up until 2017. I had met this man that on social media, he was perfect. From what he physically looked like, to the things he talked about, to the things he said to me, to what people thought of him. Like, he was very well respected in our city, in the city of Akron. He's very well respected. Everybody knew him, knew what he was, what he did. He was a drug dealer. He sold everything in the whole world. You name it, he sold it. So I started talking to him, and we were having sex outside of marriage. And I was secretly still using heroin, but I had switched from using a needle to just using a straw, which isn't any better, but I thought it was. I don't know like why I thought it was, but I just did. I don't know why I thought anything them days. So we were staying together. We weren't living together, but we were staying together. And I had never even imagined that I would get pregnant. Never. Because I had tried before. Like, God, just give me a baby and I'll be okay. Just give me a baby to replace the one that was taken from me, and I'll be okay. Well, that never happened. So, well, at that point, it hadn't happened. So, I was trying to, like, I was done. I was tired. I was 27, and I was just tired. I didn't want to live that life anymore. I didn't want to walk down the street and go to the corner store and this man, and this girl all know me from being a prostitute because I either slept with her baby dad or both of those men and not even knowing who they were looking at them. I didn't care. Your money was green. I was very, money had a lot of power over me just as well as the drugs did. I was very vain. I was very vain. Physical looks meant a lot to me back then. I think that is why I even started talking to that man. So when there was a night I had finally just had enough and I was driving in my car and I may have had a little bit of heroin left in the baggie and I was waiting and I'm driving around and I'm waiting because I'm telling you'll just be all right. Don't do it yet. You'll be all right. Because at this point I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get my next bag. And nothing was working out. Nothing. Everything I was trying to do was just not working out. And so I was trying to save this. And I'm driving and I remember crying. And I just remember it was my first time ever I had called out to God for him to help me. And that I didn't know what to do. For him to just tell me what to do and I would do it. So I put my head down and I'm crying uncontrollably and still driving at this point. And I just kept begging him and begging, just tell me what to do. I don't want to live like this anymore. And I look up and I'm at this stop sign. I had to slam on my brakes and the Akron ADM was right in front of me. And for anybody who doesn't know, that's the Akron Detox Center. So I'm looking up and I'm still crying and I'm looking at the sign and it says that the administration drug something, I forget. Anyway, it's the Detox Center. It's on Howard Hill on the north side of Akron. So I go in there and I stay for 3 days. They gave me their medication and I'm staying for 3 days. And there was a nurse there that was horrible to me. So I ended up leaving. Went back out, got high again, did the same thing all over again. Literally, cried out to God, begged him to help me. I'm still driving. And I just remember this voice in my head that says, you're pregnant. You need to stop. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, and I'm like, no way. Because when you find out you're pregnant, like you don't, not me. That's not, I tried it before, it didn't work, it's not gonna work now. So I get to thinking and I'm like, well, I haven't had my period in a long time, so no, because maybe it's just the drugs, because drugs will do that to you. Drugs affect your whole body, not just a certain part or nothing. It affects your whole body. So I'm thinking, and I'm maybe, okay, well, maybe I am pregnant. So I go to the ADM board again. I tell them that I really need help this time. Like, I'm pregnant, I need help. Well, they gave me their little panel test, whatever, and he didn't even show up on that test. If he had, they wouldn't have accepted me. I stayed for 2 days longer, which they only let you stay for 6 days because that's the normal detox days there is 6 days. So I stayed for 8. And it was Thanksgiving, November 19th, 2017 is my sober date. And a week later, I knew that if I stayed in Akron, I wasn't going to stay sober. And this time it was serious because it wasn't just my life, it was somebody else's. And I couldn't be that selfish to where I can't think about this baby too. So I called my friend. I went to New York, and I detoxed there. I slept for 72 hours, woke up, ate, slept again, and did that for 3 weeks. So I was really sick. I was throwing up, and I felt like I was dying. So I ended up going to the hospital, and they gave me a pregnancy test. And she said, okay, well, no, it's not showing up yet, so you're not pregnant, you're good. And then she turned around and turned back around and was like, oh, no, there's a second line on your test, you are pregnant. So that is why I call him my blessing from God, because he literally saved my life. He saved my life from everything. I haven't done a drug. I haven't done anything. I haven't prostituted since I had my baby. It's a completely different, it's a whole different life. And I was actually saved last summer, and I was baptized. And ever since then, I've never had a life like this, ever. In my whole 30 years, this that I'm living now is the best that I've ever lived, ever. And I would not take it back for anything. Hebrews 12, faith in action, was my first Bible verse I ever read. And I still read it every day. And that is what helps me get through. And I think I'm done. That's it.